So the Europa League Crystal Palace situation is still rumbling on. We brought you a story last week that said that UEFA were going to confirm whether Crystal Palace can compete in the Europa League or not last Friday. That didn't happen. They presumably met but didn't come to a decision. And now Crystal Palace, because of the amount of time this is taking, it's really messing with them on a number of levels. I'll explain why in a little bit, but they are considering taking legal action against UEFA for their delays when it comes to whether they can compete in the Europa League or not. Now, you might be wondering, well, what is the big problem? As long as they get to the decision, it's not really an issue. Well, it's not really the case, especially in an era of FFP and also PSR. Of course, Palace have to comply with FFP to get into Europe, but PSR in the Premier League is also crucial as well. It's all to do with their finances. If they don't know how much money is coming in, how can they effectively budget? Now, of course, this can vary, players' bonuses, wage hikes, signing new players, of course, the TV money and stuff like that. That all comes into how much income they have as a club. And it's always an estimate how much commercial revenue they'll get from things like merchandise. And the Europa League and their participation in the Europa League is really dependent on that, because you've got another stream of TV revenue. You've got more merchandise presumably going to be sold. And more importantly, the most important thing for them as well is being able to attract certain players. There will be players that Palace are looking at getting, no doubt, where they will be wondering whether they are going to be a Europa League player with Palace or not, and that could potentially be a big deal breaker for them. If they're not going to be in Europe, why would they sign for Palace? Oh, Palace are in Europe, I might sign for them. It can be something that can very much hinge the decision of whether someone will sign for Palace or not. So it's really messing with them, and it's all to do with their preparation and everything too. There is so much to this, and it's absolutely messing with Palace no end. I've covered why, of course, they are in this trouble, why they may not be able to compete in the Europa League or the Conference League. If they get kicked out of the Europa League, they won't be able to compete in either of them. I've covered why that is, obviously, in some separate videos, but let me just go through what's been said here, guys. There's a full article on the BBC. This is how I found this story, because, yeah, big surprise to say the least, but do Palace have a case? Will they sue UEFA? Let's have a look here, guys. Full article on BBC Sports. Crystal Palace have grown increasingly exasperated at the delay in UEFA's ruling over their Europa League future and feel they are being unfairly treated, according to the BBC Sports. Well-placed sources have indicated that the South London club will also be almost certainly launching a legal fight against any decision to ban them from the competition next season. There are frustrations at Selhurst Park that the delay in the ruling whether Palace have breached multi-club ownership rules in relation to American businessman John Textor's involvement at Palace and Lyon is aiding the French club's fight to stay in the next season's Europa League at the expense of the Eagles. UEFA were due to reveal on the 27th of June whether Palace were cleared to play, but the decision was put back to this week. On Monday, the governing body confirmed a final decision would be postponed until Lyon's domestic appeal against their relegation from the French top flight. Despite their enforced relegation, Lyon can currently compete in the European competitions next season. However, if the French football authorities uphold Lyon's demotion to Ligue 2, Lyon would relinquish their licence to play in UEFA competition, paving the way for Palace to play in the Europa League. UEFA's decision to wait is believed to have annoyed members of the Palace hierarchy who feel that the club are being unfairly treated because of their lack of pedigree at European level. There is a sense at Palace that Lyon are being afforded extra time to get their finances in order to aid their relegation appeal, while Palace are being penalised for missing UEFA's 1st of March deadline to reorganise their ownership structure to comply with MCO regulations. So basically, one of the things with that is the fact that Palace were not expecting to be in Europe this season. They have never qualified for European competition. They never won any silverware in their history before winning the FA Cup. So it's not something that's usual from them. They weren't expecting it, and by the 1st of March, they would have only been in the round of 16 or the quarterfinals by that stage. So, it very much does feel a bit unfortunate for Palace that this has happened, but this unfortunately is one of the rules that they have in UEFA competitions. They don't allow clubs to have this multi-club ownership thing, despite, of course, Girona being in the Champions League last season, like Manchester City, like the Red Bull clubs being in the same competitions in Europe, but I digress. That's a whole controversy in itself. Textor, who owns Eagle Football Holdings, which currently owns stakes in Palace and Lyon, announced his decision to step down from his leadership roles at Lyon on Monday. The restructure of the board at Lyon is expected to aid the French club's hopes of overturning their domestic relegation. Well-placed sources have also suggested to BBC Sport that Lyon are open to sell a number of their players to raise funds to ease their current financial problems. It is not lost on Palace officials that the deal to sell Texas' 43% stake in Palace to American businessman Woody Johnson last week, a transaction worth in the region of £190 million, may have contributed to easing Lyon's financial plight. It's important to stress that UEFA have no jurisdiction over Lyon's relegation appeal. That is a domestic French issue. In their view, Palace are one of the most well-run sides financially in England. Their clean track record in terms of staying in the right side of financial regulations is indicative of their prudency. The fact that Lyon's financial state is so chaotic that they have provisionally been demoted from the top league is not lost on figures at Palace, nor is the irony of the Premier League side losing their place in the Europa League to Lyon given the juxtaposition between their respective balance sheets. For the time being, Palace's European fate appears to be in the hands of the French football governing system. Whether Lyon's relegation to Ligue 2 is upheld remains to be seen amid a feeling that doing so would devalue the French top flight. There are varying levels of scepticism as to whether there is a will in France to forcibly remove one of their most prestigious clubs from the top flight, given the uncertainty surrounding its TV revenue. I mean, no one's watching French football, let's be real. Whether Lyon's there or not, I don't think anybody cares, to be honest with you, outside of France, but that's just my opinion. There were reports in May that sports broadcaster DAZN terminated its 5-year domestic broadcast contract with French's Professional Football League, LFP for Ligue 1, after one season. DAZN paid a reported €400 million for the domestic rights over 5 years. In contrast, in 2023, the Premier League received £6.7 billion for a 4-year contract, which starts next season, for Sky and TNT to show up to 270 live games per season. Indeed, there is a concern that relegating Lyon would put Ligue 1 at a disadvantage in terms of its popularity and global attraction. I mean, I just said it and I'll say it again, no one cares about French domestic football. I mean, obviously PSG are a great side and do amazing things in Europe, but who cares about like Saint Etienne against Brest or whatever, no one cares about Brest, although they have a fantastic season a couple seasons ago. But yeah, French football is an absolute mess right now, guys. It's nothing new. Like I said, there's many different factors behind all this, and yeah, PSG are not the sole cause. In my previous video when I spoke about Lyon, they're not the sole cause of all this. Textor has to take the lion's share of the blame here, like I said in that video, but that seemed to be lost on a few commenters for some reason. Selective hearing, I guess, there for some reason. But with Palace, they do deserve to be in Europe. They got there fair and square. They won the FA Cup. They are absolutely clean with their finances. They're doing great. They have an experienced manager. And I know that kind of thing doesn't really matter when it comes to these decisions, but they deserve to be there. They're not going to be... they're going to have more chance of winning the Europa League than some, Icelandic side or some, Ludogorets Razgrad or Steaua Bucharest. I mean, I know they won the European Cup back in the day, but they ain't winning nothing anytime soon in Europe. They're not on that kind of level. Palace genuinely have a chance of going deep in that competition. You look at some of the sides that the likes of Man United and Tottenham were facing last season, like FC Karabag from Azerbaijan. They're not going to do anything. Palace, they deserve to be there, and I hope they do get there, but let's be real here, guys. The allegations around corruption in UEFA, as I will refer to it, they are very loud, they are very proud, and they are not going to go away. And something like this is only going to further cement the alleged favouritism, shall we put it, that they may show to a more experienced European side in the form of Olympique Lyon. So, that's just my opinion, guys. What's yours? Let us know in the comments below. I hope to God Palace get there. And I know there's probably a bit of English bias coming in there, but come on, man. Give them a chance. They're not, they deserve to be in that competition. They've never been in Europe before. I want to see someone else. It was great when Brighton was in there the other season. I like seeing West Ham in there when they were in European competition. Forest this season, they're going to be great to watch in the Conference League. Villa in the Champions League. I like seeing unusual teams in recent times. Teams that don't normally make these competitions, make them and do well. I want to see that. Hell, Tottenham won the Europa League this season just gone. It's so unpredictable. And any Premier League side has a great chance of doing well in these competitions. But anyway, I'll leave it there, guys. Your thoughts in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.